Hello there, welcome to my show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak for November 23rd, 2020. You listen to bluegrass music. Yeah, for those of you outside of the United States watching this show, is this kind of cool? Bluegrass music? Yeah, it's very distinctively American. Southern. Yeah, as you know, I'm coming to you from Virginia. Arlington, Virginia. It's a southern state. Yeah, today is National Espresso Day. If you haven't had an espresso, I recommend it. It's coffee, but very strong coffee. And espresso is like very, if you just have just espresso, one shot of espresso, it's concentrated coffee that's like one sip. It just wakes you up. Yeah, if you haven't tried it, go to like somewhere and try it. Um, yeah, I remember I had my first espresso in Italy. It was a whoa, strong stuff. It's like Mountain Dew times 20. Yeah, Mountain Dew. Do you remember the commercials for that? Yeah, today, as you know, I did my, or I went to European Association for Biblical Studies and presented on Jewish Studies in 2019. And I played hooky, I have to confess, um, to have bachelor in Poland. So, I was in a 2-year master's program in master's in clinical nurse leader at Georgetown University. And so you see my, oh, it's a little bit different on the screen. Georgetown University, you have yeah, Georgetown Bulldog there. So, yeah, so for 2 years, it was a full-time program. And it's like 365 days a year for 2 years. And so we got like 1 week to 2 week breaks. And in 2019, thankfully, thank God, the 2 week break coincided with conference for European Association for Biblical Studies. And as you know, I'm an expert of Jewish studies. And I was invited to present my research on Jewish studies to a bunch of European academics, um, professors who teach in European universities. So I went to University of Warsaw, which is like the Harvard of Poland, and presented my paper on Jewish studies. And since it was like 2 week break, between two intense semesters, I took the opportunity to do bachelor in Poland. So I dated like over, or I got to know like over 15 people in less than like 15 days. So, so I'm sharing with you, the people I met in Poland in less than, it's like less than around 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. Um, so today's theme is transportation. you know, yeah, do you like themes? And since many of you will be traveling to visit your relatives, mom and dad, for Thanksgiving. Um, I thought transportation is a good thing to think about. Some of you may have already started to drive to make it for Thanksgiving. Um, some of you will start driving tomorrow. Some of you will start driving day after that. Some of you are flying. Some of you are taking train. Some of you may be taking a boat. Who knows? So I thought, transportation is something that would be a good theme. So you see me there sitting next to a train. I was taking a train from uh, Warsaw after the conference ended in Warsaw. Um, I took a train to Gdansk, which is like a resort area. And so there's me happy headed to Gdansk, the tourist spot. And the boats there that you see next to the train are in Gdansk. It's an interesting city. As you can see, it's beautiful. So if you go to Poland, make sure you go to Gdansk. Underneath the boat, you see me walking down the narrow corridor of a train uh, exiting toward Gdansk. Underneath that, you see a subway stop in Poland. Um, and next to that, you see the carriage. That's like for tourists, I guess, at Warsaw. It's a fun ride. It's for tourists. Like a lot of tourists from all over Poland come, all over the world come, and they like to take that ride. Next to that is a girl that I met in the subway. So I mean, you meet people everywhere. You know what I mean? And she's from Ukraine, but she immigrated from Ukraine to Warsaw, Poland. And she's pretty. I think you know she's like over 18. And Yeah, so start chatting and stuff. And you know, got her number and everything. So yeah, when I go back to Poland, I'll meet up with her. She's pretty. Um, yeah, but anyway, so that was in Warsaw. Um, and next to that, you see me, meeting, and they're actually Ukrainians too, but they're not related. But you know, uh, those two are actually not related either. They're like two random Ukrainians sitting together, not sitting together. We happened to sit like in the same compartment in the bus, and I was going from one of the Ukrainian bus stations, old bus station, to Old Town. Um, and Yes, I met them, and yeah, I ended up spending some time with one of them, in the old city. So it was kind of fun. Um, yeah, so I just, you meet people in the bus, you meet people in the train. I actually met some people in the train as well. Um, you meet people in the subway. The world's an oyster. World is an oyster. But people are nice. I'm single. I've never been married. I don't have any children. And I mean, I thought it'd be nice to do bachelor in Poland because Poland is a Christian country. So I figured like anybody I meet there is going to be a Christian that I can marry. You know what I mean? So that's why I had the bachelor in Poland. You know, um, yeah, and then COVID-19 struck. That was like 2019 August, and I was gonna keep going back to Poland, to reduce the, how Bachelor show works, you know, narrow it down each episode, each time I go there, and they eventually come with one person with the rose that I would maybe marry, or start a relationship, well, start a serious relationship with, um, leading to potential marriage. But COVID-19 struck. So Bachelor in Poland could not really advance, unfortunately, So it's like in a hiatus, Yeah, what can you say? But, I have all these memories and all the bachelorettes waiting for me in Poland. waiting for, hoping for that rose. Life is like that, The life is unpredictable, things happen and then, you know what I mean? You can't predict it. Isn't that sad? They left him to die like a tramp on the street. Tramp on the street. Oh my gosh, bluegrass music, it's like fun parts, sad parts, tragic parts, That's one of the things, I like about bluegrass music. It's like real, it's not like fake. Everything is not happy ending, you know what I mean? Because you have real life scenarios where people are left to die like a tramp on the street. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, especially in COVID-19, things are going to get worse. You have like lines after lines of middle class Americans, hardworking class Americans, lining up for food, like food giveaways, food drives, because Americans are hurting right now, a lot of people lost their job in COVID-19 America and became unemployed from their full-time job. As a lot of Americans actually, held like 3, 4 jobs, and when COVID-19 struck, they lost like 1 or 2 or all of those 3 jobs that they were holding. So they didn't have one full-time job. They had like 3 part-time jobs that added up to like, full-time. I remember when I was teaching at Wyatt Middle School in Greensville County Public Schools in Emporia. One of my teachers, I was teaching social studies to 6th graders, and one of my students' mother, like one of my students' father, was in the prison system, penitentiary, because Virginia State Penitentiary is in Emporia. So his father was like a big shot gangster and was spending time in prison. I think he's a lifer. So the whole family moved to Emporia, and you know, um, so his mother works to support the family. So his mother works like 3 jobs. So I had a session after the class, and she came from Pizza Hut. She works in Pizza Hut like as a teller. So not Pizza Hut, actually Domino's Pizza. So she's like a cashier at Domino's Pizza. And generally Domino's are family-owned businesses, and she was like a cashier. Um, and she held like 3 jobs, 3 part-time jobs. Um, and so she came like with her like Domino's Pizza outfit, like cashier outfit, because she came straight from work. I guess she took like a break, 30-minute break, or maybe longer. I mean, Emporia is not a big city, so I think it took her, not that long to drive, and then so we had a short talk about her son. Um, I'm a teacher, and I didn't know her situation was that bad, but you know, um, anyway, she came to our parent teacher meeting, like just one to one to discuss her son, and I always kind of, as she shared with me a little bit about her life situation, and we talked about her son, and I realized then, it's not, you know, um, there are a lot of Americans, working 2 to 3 jobs, part-time jobs that up to like a and up to a full-time job. Um, and I realized that it was many years ago. I realized then, like a lot of Americans are struggling, and after that parent-teacher meeting, that I had, I started to kind of research a little bit more about my students and their parents, and in Emporia. a lot of my students, their father was in prison for some, state prison, and that's one of the reasons why they moved there. Um, Not all of my students were like that, but some of them. These are like lifers or whatever in the Virginia State Penitentiary. Um, and even people who are not lifers, people even local yokels, some of them were struggling, either like single mothers or even, non-single mothers, the both parents are working several part-time jobs. Um, I realized that, teachers don't get paid a lot. Teachers, I know because I, 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 I'm a teacher, so I know teachers don't get paid a lot. But I realized, like, for some of the parents that I taught, in the public school system in Emporia, some of the, or a lot, even a lot of the parents, they have it rougher than teachers. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, um, and that's when I was like, wow, life is hard. Teachers get paid peanuts, and they get paid, I would say, much lower than the median middle class wages. I mean, just to give you an example, a lot of teachers they get paid, like $30,000 a year to teach, especially in rural America, and the maximum they will hit is like 50,000. And average middle class wage salary in America is like, 100 over 100,000 is an average middle class salary. My best friend Ed Bushang, um, he worked at a mailroom of Henkel Corporation. Paid like $3.70, $3.25 an hour, while he was going to Temple University to be an elementary school teacher. And when he graduated, he didn't want to become an elementary school teacher because his teaching experience in Philadelphia public schools. Uh, Actually, he wasn't Philadelphia public schools. I think he was a teacher at Arlington Public School District because he went to Temple. He also did main campus, but he started at Abington. I think it was Abington Temple campus. And I think he taught. If I'm not mistaken, he taught at like in Abington, elementary school. Maybe he taught at elementary school. It was a long time ago, and he hated student teaching. So when he graduated from Temple with like over 3.5 GPA, he didn't want to be a teacher because he I guess he didn't expect the kids to be kids are kids, kids are kids, because I was I taught fifth graders at some elementary school. I love my kids. The kids are kids, and kids are everywhere. They're all like at high energy, high high octane, from beginning to end. And like all the elementary school teachers are like. I used to see them like at the end of day, like from first grade to like fifth grade. Teachers are like pooped. At the end of the day, because all the students are high octane. You know what I mean? It takes you have to be energetic to be an elementary school teacher. Just you know, a high school teacher you don't need that much energy. You can be like chill. Slow mo. It still works. Elementary, you have to be high octane. But anyway, Ed hated it. Ed hated student teaching, so he, he was working as a mail, like stuffing mailboxes in Henkel Corporation, and he decided to apply to Henkel for a full time job. So he went, he was a part time, mail person, paid 3.25 an hour or whatever it was, and then like they hired him like full time into sales. So basically, it's still minimum wage. So he started out making like, I don't know, like, it added up to like $19,000 a year. So he was living at home. And then eventually, like, he worked himself up. So basically from the bottom, the mailroom, all the way. By the time he hit 27 years old, he was making over 100,000. This was a long time ago. You know, um, and that's like a middle class salary, and in Pennsylvania, and he bought a condominium around the time he was 23. He bought a condominium. It was like a $40,000 condominium in um, Hatboro Horsham, like 50,000, and they have 2 bedroom, 2 stories, condominium. Yeah, so it's like 40,000, was it? 50,000, 40,000. Um, and yeah, and you know, um, and so that's like middle class, salary. Like most Americans who graduate from college can expect to make over 100,000. You know, um, so that's why teachers they have that they're shortchanged. They make peanuts, and job is hard. Being an middle school teacher is very hard. So you know, um, you know, but elementary school teachers, they don't get paid that much, right? Throughout America, 50 states, but they're even though they're making some of them are making $30,000 a year, just working like a dog. Um, they have it better than like a lot of the parents of the children they teach. You know, They're- so you gotta get a perspective. I taught at a rural middle school, wide middle school, um, and you learn about the lives of the rural Americans. I mean, Emporia is the capital of Greensville County, but it's like a rural county. Um, and then you learn a lot, about how hard life is in America. Especially rural America, and it opens your eyes. And so as I said, I try to like learn more about the parents and the life there, and gained an appreciation for what America's like rural America's like, and how Americans live. So even Ed, he had it rough. I remember him talking about how hard it was when he was working the mailroom or in sales. Um, but like Ed was like, he made $100,000 plus, but then there's like 27, 28. Um, and that's like a typical life. You can start out in a mailroom in America. I guess this was during the Reagan era, and you could expect to make 100,000. Yeah, with a college degree. Like even if you don't have a college degree, you can start out in a mailroom and end up if you go into sales and do well, make over 100,000. This was the good old days of America when Reagan was president. Those are days are gone now, unfortunately. Um, But yeah, America used to be that good. Like you didn't have to go to college. Started out in a mailroom, just punching in the boxes. You go into sales, go car. You can expect to make 100,000 a year. You can work for you know GM, General Motors, in the lowest job. You could expect to make near 100,000 or over 100,000 if you stay with the company for like 10, 15 years. That was like the good old days in America during Reagan, when Ronald Reagan was president. At the height of the wealth of America, And now, America's not that wealthy. So you can tell by how Americans live, right? When you have food bank and American cars are lining up for miles, it shows how poor America is now. And this is COVID America, but it started before COVID America. When President Obama was president, over 16 million people entered the poverty line. 2 million people lost their jobs, their houses, to foreclosure during President Obama's 8 years. So poverty started during President Obama's years. No offense, President Obama, but that it started then. I'm just describing what happened. And people who are black, white, Hispanic, they all like suffered a lot. Um, and they're still suffering right now. and now COVID-19 struck and things are worse. And it's bad. It's bad. President Trump made things better for a while, and he was set to become like Ronald Reagan 2.0, better and improved. But COVID-19 struck. It's just like bad luck. You know what I mean? Because President Trump was doing everything right, and economy was going stronger and stronger. If there was no COVID, I mean, economy would have been the strongest. I mean, I think President Trump would have succeeded far more than Ronald Reagan. And tragically, if he doesn't become president again, you should predict under Biden, American economy will collapse. I don't think, under President Obama's 8 years, U.S. economy collapsed. Um, that's just because the philosophy that President Obama has is not conducive to growth for a capitalist nation. Obama's ideas may work in a socialist state, but it doesn't work in a capitalist state. And Joe Biden is the same way. Joe Biden has all these ideas that are very. It sounds nice, but it works in a socialist state, but it doesn't work in a capitalist state. So at the end of the day, everybody hurts, not just the wealthy, but the middle class and the poor. Everyone hurts, and that's what happened during Obama's years. His ideas sound good, but why did 16 million people who are middle class enter the poverty line during 8 years of Obama? Obama keeps saying like, well, it's not his fault, but I mean, he's stuff somewhere. It happened during Obama's watch. Um, I mean, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I'm just describing what happened. So I think that if Joe Biden becomes president, hopefully not, then next 4 years we'll probably see a collapse of American economy. That's what I'm predicting. Like America will completely collapse economically because Democrats are not. Democrats fail economically. There's no question about it. Whenever we have a Democratic president, economies fail. I mean, like, do you remember Jimmy Carter's years? Yeah, it was a nightmare. For those of you who remember, of you who are elderly who remember, I mean, that's why Ronald Reagan had a landslide victory. Um, yeah, I mean, President Trump just had bad luck. I mean, if you want to just talk from a luck perspective, um, because if COVID-19 did not hit, then President Trump would have probably won all 50 states. Economy was so strong. It was getting stronger. We could have hit like 10% growth rate, even 15% growth rate eventually. But, I mean, these were possibilities, but COVID-19 hit. Because President Trump was going on an exponential growth. And, my suspicion is that COVID-19 is a biological weapon created by China. Um, and it was deployed because President Trump was doing so well. And China succeeded. Um, because, as I said, I think it's 90% guaranteed that if Biden becomes president, unfortunately, American economy will completely collapse. That's probably what China wanted. And China was calculated it, right? If they knew that if COVID-19 hit, President Trump may not win, and then under Biden, even without doing anything, American economy will collapse. Because as I say, democratic policies do not work. They don't work. I mean, it didn't work under 8 years of Obama. It didn't work under. It didn't work under Jimmy Carter, and President Clinton. It didn't work under him either. Um, it's that they're ideologically geared toward helping other nations rather than helping America. So other nations benefit when Democrats are president, but America suffers because everybody cannot win. Because if you play poker, somebody wins, somebody loses, right? So if you're helping other nations become rich, you're gonna become poor. How do you think China became so rich? Because of all the Democrats. Like 8 years of Clinton years of Obama, unchecked growth for China, it hurt us, but it helped China. You see what I'm saying? So I think if Joe Biden becomes president, unfortunately, yeah, you could predict America's going to collapse completely. I mean, I'll be surprised if America survives economically if Joe Biden is president. I mean, I'll be shocked if America survives economically in 4 years. Um, because if even when there's no COVID, Democratic presidents like destroy economies. We have COVID now. So, I mean, I think if Joe Biden becomes president, there's a high chance American economy will totally collapse. You will lose everything that you have in retirement funds. I'm not saying I'm not putting anything into stocks right now because I'm predicting that stocks will go to zero. Like if you have $1 million in stocks, they'll go to zero. So you know how when you work, you can put money into stocks. I'm putting zero into stocks, zero right now, because I expect stock to go to zero. I mean, I literally expect it. Like I don't have any stocks now. Um, yeah, I liquidated all the stocks because I expect stocks to crash at some point, like out of nowhere, and then everything will be gone. I mean, I don't have that much money to start with anyway, but whether you have $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, $1 billion, if stock goes to zero, you have zero, you have nothing. I think that's coming, especially if Biden is president because he doesn't know what he's doing economically. President Trump, at least, is a businessman, right? Um, and Democrats, even the economists, they want to like help other nations become rich, and then we become poor. You know what I mean? If you're helping everybody, they become rich, you become poor. That's the way it works. How many of you have seen volunteers who are rich? If you volunteer to help people, you're never going to be rich because you're helping others. I mean, volunteer at church, but if you want to be a volunteer, if, more power to you. Do volunteering, but you're never going to be rich. Because you're spending all the time helping people. You're not helping yourself. You know, how many billionaire volunteers have you seen? You know, if I don't know if you remember the commercial Grateful Palm. It was a long time ago, but if you can find some Grateful Palm commercials, they say, "How do you think I got so rich?" You know what I mean? Like if you volunteer your time, you're never going to become rich. People become rich, it's like they get paid for everything they do. Those are the people who get rich. Like if you're volunteering time, you're never going to become rich. I don't know, like at University of Pennsylvania, uh, you know, how many billionaires do you think volunteer? Do you think Donald Trump volunteers even 1 hour for University of Pennsylvania? No, that's how he became a billionaire. He's not going to give anybody free time. Like, billionaires became billionaires because they do not volunteer. Majority of them, right? I mean, Bill Gates is doing a lot of good things now because he's retired. You think Bill Gates volunteered really? You know what I'm saying? He didn't become billionaire by volunteering all his time. Now that he's like billionaire, he's retired and he's volunteering a lot of his time. But he didn't get to be a billionaire by volunteering. If you volunteer, you're not going to be a billionaire. The reason why so many Koreans have failed to become millionaires or billionaires because they volunteer their time and do like a lot of good things. I mean, more power to you if that makes you happy, but you're never going to be rich volunteering your time. It's just life is like that. You can't have everything in life. You volunteer time, you're going to be poor. You know what I mean? Or you're going to be like a middle class, but middle class or poor if you volunteer your time. But if that makes you happy, more power to you, but you're never going to be rich. If you want to be rich, you don't volunteer any time. You just like go straight ahead, getting paid for everything. That's how you get rich. Um, like here, I'm kind of volunteering my time to give you some information about COVID-19, help you survive COVID-19. You know, my goal in life is not to become a billionaire. You know what I mean? If my goal in life is to become a billionaire, I won't be volunteering any of my time. You know what I mean? Yeah, because you're never going to be a billionaire volunteering your time. Um, I mean, some billionaires who are billionaires volunteer their time, but I mean, you know, You become rich by getting more than giving. You know what I mean? People who give never become rich. But I mean, some people are rich because they take and take. I mean, I think it's a lie that volunteers are happy. Some of the volunteers I know are the least happy people in the world. I mean, do you like giving more or do you like receiving more? Let's say in a relationship, do you like giving more or receiving more? I mean, I would say 99.9% of the people like to receive more than give. But some people have bought into the lie like if you volunteer and you give, you're going to be happier. It's not true. Receiving you're happier, giving you're less happy. You know what I mean? I mean that's the truth. But there's a lie out there like you're going to be happier giving things away. It's not true. Um, yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah. you know, I'm all about truth. This show is all about the truth. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. Don't volunteer if you're poor because you're already poor. You make some money for yourself. Don't volunteer anytime except at church. Because Jesus gave you salvation, you owe him. But don't volunteer anywhere else if you're poor or lower middle class. I mean, you should be like saving money. Take a second job, get paid. I mean, if you need the money, stop volunteering. Yeah, I mean, at church, you owe Jesus a volunteer, but it's kind of like paying him back. But outside of church, don't volunteer for anything. If you're poor or lower class or working class, why volunteer, right? Um, I'm just trying to save your family from like homelessness and poverty. You have to take care of your family first, and you gotta stop volunteering. Because I know there are fathers out there. They're like addicted to volunteering. No, seriously, there are people who are like that. It's like being an alcoholic, but as a volunteer. Like they volunteer for like everything there is, and they're addicted to it. And their family's suffering. Their family's not having what they need. Their children can't even pay for college, and they're just volunteering and volunteering. You know what I mean? There are people like that. They're addicted to volunteering. It's a problem. Um, so yeah. So my recommendation to poor people out there: do not volunteer for anything except for your church, because if you're saved in Jesus Christ, you kind of owe Jesus. So it's not really technically volunteering. God gave you salvation, so just kind of paying back by working and volunteering at church. But outside of church, do not volunteer for anything because I don't want you to become homeless. I don't want you to be like poorer than you need to be. Volunteer only if you have more than enough, uh, and you have security like in the bank. Then volunteer. But don't volunteer if you don't have money saved up. If you don't if you don't have enough, because if you become homeless, it defeats the purpose, right? I mean, you're there trying to like volunteer at a food bank, and then you become homeless. You see what I mean? It becomes you become the problem. So if everybody seeks their own interest, then our country is better off. Stop volunteering. Seek your interest. If you have money, then volunteer. If you have more than enough, volunteer because to them more is given, more is expected. But if you are struggling paycheck to paycheck, do not volunteer. Get a second job. For God's sake, get a second job. Don't become homeless. Um, yeah, don't volunteer for anything except church. Um, be smart about this, especially if you're an evangelical Christian. Do not volunteer outside of your church. You can become homeless, right? Be responsible financially. Um, yeah, get a second job, get paid because you need the money. Your children need the money, right? Stop volunteering outside of church. Um, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm a strong believer in capitalism. I believe that capitalism works. I believe that American democracy works, but it's not going to work if you're going to try to become a socialist. You see what I'm saying? Volunteering is like socialist activity. It's not capitalist. In capitalism, there's supply and demand, and you get paid for your services. That's the whole point. Like if you volunteer, you're not being an American. Like that's anti-American to volunteer, I would say, because you're being more like a communist Chinese or communist Russian, because they all they all work for the common collective. I mean, you know what I mean? Everybody's taught not to seek their own interest. You see what I'm saying? So if you want to be like a socialist, yeah, volunteer all you want. But you know, you could just move to China or Russia. You know what I'm saying? I mean, capitalism is built on people seeking their self-interest, and the problem of Obama, problem of Clinton, problem of Hillary, problem of Biden is that they want you to volunteer for stuff. They want you to be poor. For the common, like for the collective. Like they don't want you to seek your own self-interest. I stand against that. I support capitalism. I'm an American. I'm very happy to be an American. I'm proud of what America, original founders envisioned America to be, and that's where everybody seeks their self-interest. So stop volunteering. We need to get rid of like 90% of non-governmental organizations. They're useless. So stop volunteering for NGOs. Let's get rid of them. I mean, that's makes will make America better. If every American sought their own interest, America would be a better nation. Like during Ronald Reagan era, we didn't have that many NGOs. So you see the country was rich, everyone was doing well. But after Ronald Reagan era, you had all these socialist, communist, Marxist types creating these NGOs, non-government organizations, and our country started getting poorer. Because you have all these people volunteering. I mean, that's American democracy is capitalist. Stop volunteering. You're ruining America's capitalism. You're destroying it by volunteering. We need to get rid of all these volunteer organizations, because what good are they really? Let's unpack this. You volunteer for what? Environmental stuff. Does that add to our nation's wealth in any sense of the term? Does that get rid of poverty in America? Does it help the poor? No. All these NGOs that are devoted to environmentalism, they make our nation poor. You gotta get rid of every single one of them. I mean, if we want to make the environment better, it's simple. You pass a law in the Senate or in the House to correct environmental problems. You don't need a single volunteer to do that. Right? All these millions of volunteers for environment, from high school up to like 50 years old, you're wasting your time. More importantly, you're destroying America's economy. Because productivity of a nation is based on every citizen being productive. What is the productivity? Volunteering and doing stuff for environment that has no real consequence is waste of time. If you every one of you work at that time to something constructive that adds to our nation's nation building, then our nation will become wealthy, not poor. But you're wasting time volunteering for things that are not going to add to our nation's wealth. It's not going to improve the environment. All the activities you do through NGOs, that doesn't do anything economically or environmentally. As I said, if you want to improve the environment, you pass laws, um, and that's all you need. You don't need a single volunteer. So start volunteering for environmental organizations. They are the problem of America. Um, yeah. I mean, obviously, I feel strongly about this because so many Americans are becoming poor. And if you're an NGO person, you know what I'm saying. You're poor because you worked in NGO for 5 years, right? Or you volunteering for NGO for 5. That's why you're poor. You see what I'm saying? So stop volunteering. Yeah. Yeah. Let's all work. This is why it's tragic that we had so many Democratic presidents. Our nation has become poor under Democrats. Um, if our nation became richer under Democrats, I'd be like, let's vote. Well, abortion and gay marriage, I oppose it, but let's take those things out. The Democratic Party could work, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Democratic Party doesn't work. And we see that from 16 million Americans entering the poverty line under Obama. Why do you think they entered the poverty line under Obama? There was no COVID. There was nothing. Why? 8 years of it. I'm serious. You will see what will happen. If Biden becomes president, you will see what I mean. Because socialism doesn't work. Um, yeah, it's sad though. I mean, I mean, not only Donald Trump unlucky, America as a country is unlucky, right? Because our country was getting better and better, stronger and stronger economically, and the COVID-19 hit. Everything's gone. And many of you like voted for like Biden like idiots, you know. I mean, you're like leading to our country's destruction. I mean, there's no way our country's gonna survive COVID for 4 years with a Democratic president. I mean, even with COVID, Trump managed to keep up the stocks and managed to like handle the economy. Because he's brilliant. I mean, you guys may hate Trump. I don't like a lot of things he does, but you cannot deny the fact he's a genius, economic genius. It's proven by what he did with his Trump empire, but more importantly by what he did with the American economy. And you will regret it, obviously. After America collapsed, you'll be like, oh, I should have voted for Trump. Too late, too late. You know what I'm saying? 4 years away. Let's talk after American economy completely collapsed. Um, I mean, obviously, I don't want American economy to collapse. Um, but that's why, I say let's have the recounts in 6 states. Maybe Trump won. Um, yeah, let's give our country a chance. That's what I'm saying. Um, yeah, but I have zero confidence in Biden. Um, yeah. Economically, certainly zero confidence. Um, Cradle to the grave. You learn a lot from these, bluegrass music. Like Southerners suffered a lot, especially on the Reconstruction. After Civil War, they were like tortured and humiliated, beaten, harassed by Northerners, Union soldiers. Um, so Southerners suffered a lot. So they understand suffering, you know, at an institutional level, at an individual level, power discrepancy, power dynamic level. There's no one like the Southerners who understand suffering in America. They suffer as states, as individuals, as families during the Reconstruction. Humiliation, powerlessness, helplessness, Southerners suffered that. Um, and Southerners survived, you know, through all that hardship. So I like the South. Um, Union Depot. See, and Southerners are so, you know, Jesus. You know what I mean? I just love Southern culture. Jesus is there all the time. You know what I mean? Why do you think I love Virginia? It's a Southern, nice Southern culture. It's interwoven to every fabric of life, Jesus Christ. You can't like untangle it, even if you want to. You know what I mean? Whether you're Democrat, Independent, or Republican, it's impossible to take it out. It's in the DNA of the South. If you're a Southerner, you know what I mean. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican. Doesn't matter if you're independent. You know, it's in your DNA. Yeah, we had 926 people die in the last 24 hours. Um, you know, it may be more, but um, our nation is a little bit in an influx right now with this presidential election debate. So the numbers may be higher, and then few days later, a few weeks later, maybe they'll count all the numbers they didn't properly count now, and you have a whole like 10,000 numbers that have to be counted. You know, yeah, because like, a lot of the states are divided in their energies and attention, even like local areas. So it's probably more than 926, in my opinion. Right now, like like the attention is not fully on COVID. Um, attention is is on the presidential race. That's the primary. Um, you know, this is what I'm saying. It's unlucky that President Trump did not win a landslide victory, but he made mistakes. He made some serious mistakes. I gave him advice. Just watch my show. Had he heard my advice, had he took my advice, like I gave him a lot of advice in this show. Just go from April to now and look at all the shows where I gave President Trump advice. If President Trump took my advice, he would have had a landslide victory. It's 100% guaranteed. He would have won I, he would have won by a landslide against Biden if President Trump took my advice. But unfortunately, he did not take my advice. He took some idiot's advices, and that's why he's in this predicament. Yeah, just look at all the advice I gave President Trump, like free advice. Like President Trump paid for advice, hundreds of thousands, billions of dollars, and those advice is what brought him to this predicament. And President Trump may end up being thrown into prison. Yeah, because there's so many people who want to throw President Trump in prison. So many different groups, not just one group. I mean, there's like hundreds of different groups who want to throw President Trump in prison, and every one of those 100 groups may sue in different courts, like in different states. There's a high probability like President Trump will end up in prison if he doesn't win the presidency. Um, Ivanka Trump will end up in prison. Jared Kushner will end up in prison. Um, you know, um, Donald Jr. will end up in prison. Eric Trump will end up in prison. Even Melania may end up in prison. There's high probability, I would argue, because they're gonna, like, different groups are gonna try them. That's how much they hate the Trumps. President Trump should have taken my advice, and they would have had a landslide victory. And it would probably guarantee the victory for his. If Donald Trump Jr. ran for president, he would probably become president. But unfortunately, then that could be all wrong. They may all end up in prison because everybody who hates Trump want to put them in prison. Every single one of them. You know that, right? I don't think I'm like saying anything that you don't know. If you are a hater of Trump, and look at the way they tried to impeach him without stop. You know, that's going to be like next 10 years. That 100 to 1,000 different groups are going to be trying to put President Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, maybe the Kushners in prison. That's what people will do for the next 10 years, like Trump's enemies. Um, yeah, and that's why, like, for President Trump, this is all or nothing. Like, if he doesn't become president, there's high probability he'll end up in jail. Um, it's sad, but yeah. Yes, it's sad, but you know, politics is politics, right? Yeah. Um, at least he he didn't have the treatment that President Julius Caesar had, right? You know, uh, yeah. But yeah, President Trump should have listened to Iran. Listen, Kim, Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, he would have won a landslide victory. Landslide. He would have won like majority of the popular vote too. You know, it's like that. People have ears but they don't hear. People have eyes but they do not see. Everything is funny for in hindsight, right? What can you say? Um, Looking at America, number one is Texas, 1,159,863 cases, 21,049 deaths. So, do you really doubt that Texas will hit 60,000 deaths? Of course it is by June 2020. Of course. Um, if we have every state hit 60,000 deaths, we'll have 3 million deaths in America. California is number two, 1,120,809 cases. Death is at 18,745. Um, Number three is Florida, 944,745 cases, 18,885. 18,085 have died. Illinois is 664,620 cases. Death is at 12,111. New York is 602,120. Death is at 35,838. Do you doubt any of these states will hit 60,000 deaths by June? Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of politicians don't understand how Americans think. They've been in politics for long. Like Biden probably doesn't understand. He's been a politician all his life. These politicians don't understand how Americans think. Um, COVID-19 USA, East Coast COVID-19 hotspot. That's the theme for today. First article: a vortex of bad facts. Murphy says of rising COVID rates in New Jersey. And significant quote from this is Governor Phil Murphy told Good Morning America's George Stephanopoulos, we do have some realities that are stark. The cases of coronavirus continue to rise in New Jersey, and it's only getting worse, Murphy said, due to colder weather, more people indoors, like in schools and colleges, classrooms, pandemic fatigue, and transmission happening behind closed doors. Like, I guess what he means is people having sex. Um, people having sex at a bar, you know. In order to, well, you're not having sex at a bar, but being picked up at a bar kind of thing, swipe left, swipe right, that kind of thing. Strangers having sex, one night stands or stuff like that, or people having sex in first, second, third dates. These things. That's what he's referring to, I guess. Um, in order to stop that, he says the state has taken measures like cutting back on indoor dining at 10 p.m. each night, but he's begging residents only to see their immediate family on Thanksgiving and don't travel. You don't have to worry about like family members having sex, I mean, geez. Um, the chance that like you're gonna get COVID-19 from a family Thanksgiving dinner is so small compared to like people meeting at a bar and having sex. Just, you see what I mean? You can't even compare the I mean, you can get COVID by having Thanksgiving dinner with your relatives, but that's not going to be anything close to like people having sex with strangers, whom they met at a bar, or people having sex with like a date, right? Because they're still strangers, because that kind of intimacy, that kind of closeness, makes virus secession, virus spread much more powerful, right? Chance that you're going to get COVID-19 from Thanksgiving dinner, yeah, you could get it. But if the chance of you getting COVID-19 by having sex on your dates or sex with people you pick up at a bar or sex with your fellow students in a high school or college, chance is very high with that. The chance of getting COVID by just the dinner, very low compared to it. I mean, not very low. I mean, it's lower. I mean, you can still get it. So let's put things into perspective. These liberal Democrats, they like open up colleges and high schools, you know, and they don't even think about that. I mean, what do you think college students do? Have sex. What do you think high school students, you should. College students, high school students to wait till marriage. But I mean, and you open bars, what do you think people do when they go to bars? The reason that we're having all these cases of COVID is because high schools are open, colleges are open, and bars are open. That's why. When you close all of them down, you're going to have such a reduction in COVID-19. It's not even funny. You could probably even have like Christmas celebrations. But because you have schools open, colleges open, and bars open, people are having sex, that's why they're getting COVID. That's why it's spreading like wildfire. Um, let's be honest here. It's not that easy to get infected. I mean, yes, you can theoretically get infected, but like if you have sex with someone, I mean that you have like really high chance of getting infected, right? Um, let's be honest here. You gotta cut down on sex opportunities by strangers, or you're never gonna get rid of COVID-19 infections. Okay, I said it because I'm gonna give you the brutal truth. This show is geared toward 18 and up adults. Hopefully, you're adult watching this show. So I'm going to be brutally honest here. You got to cut down on sex opportunities to reduce COVID-19 deaths. I know nobody's talking about it in CNN. I know Dr. Fauci's not talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it. The strangers having sex with strangers, either in the date setting, bar setting, college setting, or high school setting, that's what's spreading COVID-19. You know, um, you reduce those, you reduce COVID-19 by like 80%. Yeah, in every state. But obviously, we know this because when you shut down, COVID-19 goes down. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, people can still sneak out and have sex, but, I mean, most people are not going to go through all that trouble to have sex. You know what I'm saying? But if you have bars open, colleges open, high schools open, I mean, geez, you're just asking for it. And then again, you know? Um, yeah, second article. New York City to open field hospital for first time since spring as COVID-19 cases spike. Significant quote from that is spiking cases of coronavirus in at least one New York City borough forced the reopening of a field hospital not used since the early dark days of the pandemic, uh, officials said on Monday. The temporary facility at Staten Island University Hospital had been operated from early April through the end of June during initial action against the pandemic, authorities said. The first patients to enter this reopened field hospital are expected to arrive Tuesday or Wednesday. That's tomorrow. Um, it will be able to hold up to 108 patients for now. It could be extended to 250 if necessary. It will be necessary. Staten Island, though, is far from the only Empire State county struggling with a resurgence in the virus. From November 2nd to Monday, the number of New York State residents in the hospital for COVID-19 has grown from 1,227 to 2,724, Cuomo said on Monday. So it doubled, it more than doubled, right? In less than a month. Yeah, it's bad. We have like 6 more months to go. November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. More than 6 months. Third article, COVID-19 in Pennsylvania, models showing 22,000 cases per day by December. Stay at home advisory issued. So the key article, key focus here is the Wolf administration on Monday announced new coronavirus mitigation efforts as modeling projects 22,000 daily coronavirus cases in the state, Pennsylvania, come December. Governor Tom Wolf pointed to modeling projects saying Pennsylvania will run out of ICU beds in December if no action is taken. He will definitely run out of ICU beds in December. Same with Virginia. As I said, November, all the hospitals will be full. You'll see. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, America's not doing what the governors and mayors are not doing what they need to do to reduce COVID-19 death. They actually have to shut the bars down, you know? I mean, this is a body-to-body transmission. Unless you reduce sex between strangers, um, yeah, that's the quickest way to spread COVID. Um, yeah. Well, anyway, so I recommend, mayors, governors, closing down bars altogether, closing down high school, schools and colleges. If you want to survive, you gotta take the hard measures to survive. I mean, if you open venues for people to have like gratuitous sex with people who are strangers, you're never gonna get rid of COVID ever. Yeah, you see, this is why you need to watch this show. You see the liberal media talking about sexual activity as transmitting COVID. You know what they say? Oh, just don't care. What? Bodily fluids are being exchanged. You don't think we get COVID through sex? You like body to body. You don't think we get COVID through sex? Or that heavy breathing? You think your mask's gonna stay in place? Jeez, for God's sake. I mean, I mean, who are they kidding? I mean, you think your mask is gonna stay in place with all through the heavy breathing and moving around? I mean, are they for real? And do you think the mask will protect you at the point blank range? I mean, geez, for God's sake. I mean, this is why I don't believe the liberal media. They're telling you not to have Thanksgiving dinner. Like nobody's going to be like kissing or having sex, family Thanksgiving dinner. They tell you not to have Thanksgiving dinner, but they like, oh yeah, just keep the bars open, keep the colleges open, keep the high schools open. Yeah, let the strangers have sex. Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, don't have Thanksgiving dinner. You see what I'm saying? You see why I don't believe the liberal media? They don't make any sense. They're not scientifically viable, right? You see what I'm saying? This is why I don't believe the liberal media. These liberals want to keep having sex with strangers, so they don't want to talk about that, right? Yeah. Yeah, we gotta do what we need to do to save the nation, and liberals are not gonna do it. That's why it's tragic um, that Biden may become president. That's the greatest tragedy in the history of America because if Biden becomes president, maybe in the next 4 years, our nation may end as a nation. It'll economically collapse. Do you see Joe Biden talking about shutting down all the bars in America or all the colleges in America or the high schools in America? No, because Joe Biden doesn't know how to prevent this COVID. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic. Um, yeah. Why do you think nobody's talking about sex? Shutting down sex areas to prevent COVID-19 death. Why do you think nobody's talking about it? Because all the liberal media, they just want to have sex with strangers. So they don't want to get rid of bars. I hope you mayors out there, you governors out there, will pass legislation. I mean, you may not agree with abstinence. You may not agree that Bible, when they say do not commit adultery, it means it. But I hope you understand the language of COVID-19 death. Only way you're gonna, only way you're gonna reduce COVID-19 death is reduce sex between strangers. Um, why do you think Asia doesn't have any COVID-19 death? For God's sake, sex between strangers is frowned upon in like a lot of Asian countries. So you don't have transmission. Why do you think there's like hardly any COVID in Arabic countries? Because sex between strangers is frowned upon in Arabic Muslim nations, so you don't have COVID-19 spread. I mean, geez, you gotta. How do you think these things get transmitted? Sex, sex, sex. Yeah. I mean, geez, you gotta like spell it out like letter by letter. S-E-X, sex, sex, sex. Or they're not gonna understand it, these liberal media people. I mean, jeez. It's common sense. Common sense, people, common sense. Yeah. Yeah, I know you want to keep having sex with strangers, But come on, man. Is that more important than your life? Your children's lives? Yeah. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Where would you be without me, Heerak Christian Kim, the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, to point at the obvious to you, that Dr. Fauci never talked about? Where would you be without me? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to save this nation from complete collapse. United States of America that I love. I'm trying to save the United States from complete collapse. You gotta help me help you. I mean, geez, for God's sake. Doesn't what I say make complete sense to you? Logically? Scientifically? Oh my God, I'm like the lone voice in the wilderness, trying to save your lives. And everybody's just trying to have sex, sex, sex. That's adultery. You know what I mean? They want have their pleasure and leave the nation into complete destruction. Um, yeah, yeah, it's sad. But yeah, sometimes you have to just go monastic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you gotta go like celibacy, to survive. I mean, geez, we're talking about survival of 330 million Americans here. Um, yeah. Yeah, God does say wages of sin is death. People, right? That's in the Bible. This song is good. Can you imagine like dancing to this? As you know, I love dancing, right? You know how hard it is dancing this thing? Jeez. You know, how fast the beat is. You may have to like dance every other beat. Good stuff. See, are you happy I introduced you to bluegrass music? Some of you are going to become bluegrass fans now. Yeah, introducing new stuff. Multiculturalism, that's what it's all about. Hope you will be well and that your children will be well too. See you tomorrow. Bye.